Hello people, we're back. Bigger and better than ever. Today we are going to do a walkthrough of my brand new track, The Taste, which came out on MONSTERCAT and Rocket League a few weeks ago now, I think, and the response has been mad. Like, it's one of my quickest growing tracks ever, which I never thought would ever happen because it's not a very commercial track, but thank you so much to everyone who's been supporting this one. Means the world. So let's dive into the project and let's have a look at some production. So this one is quite complicated compared to a lot of my other tracks. It took quite a while to get this one right. It started as an instrumental and it was like that for a while, and then me and my friend Sam recorded and wrote the vocal for this, and then I kind of changed the arrangement around the vocal so it fit a little bit better. It started over here with this break melody. I'll just take the filter off for you guys, which is super simple. And this is just something I was listening to music at the time. It was like one night I was in my bedroom and I was like, one of the tracks I was listening to had this like melody that just kept repeating throughout the entire track, but the chords underneath would change and it would make the melody feel completely different, and it was just super sick. And I was like, I really, really want to do something like this right now. So I got this little melody down, and then it in the first however many bars, it just stays the same. Oh, sorry, that's here. So that just repeats twice. And then when the chords come in here, you have this change now. You have that major note in there, that major third, which is being borrowed from somewhere. I can't remember which key, but it just changes the entire vibe instantly. You think it's going to go somewhere in this whole like minor sort of sound, and then you just throw that major chord in. And that was where I started. I started with the chords underneath and the melody, built it around it. So the melody, super simple. It's not really worth showing you guys all of the layers because it's just pretty boring. Just your standard stuff. It's also being filtered anyway, so it's pretty pointless. But so the chords, I actually changed the chords to a guitar in the beginning. So this is what the guitars sound like. So we've got the palm muted chords. And then the melody. And then an acoustic layer on top. If you guys want to know how I kind of process my guitars and all that jazz, I've made a video about that already. Done it on many of my YouTube videos actually, so just check one of them out. I won't go into depth on that now. Moving on. Very minimal in the first verse. We come in with these string sound. We come in with this string sound, which just builds the tension, super haunting. And then just to kind of give the beef underneath that, we've got these saws. Simple ES2 patch there, just saw wave. Then we've got a Rhodes. Super dope sound. It's called Terra Rhodes. It's just a preset that I made with the Stage plugin from Arturia. Really, really great sounds for electric pianos. We've got a string drone to just build that tension and ambience. Got a mellotron, which is just holding a chord. Not sure what this is. This kind of like high ambient layer. This is all just like layering chords so that You got like stuff in the higher register, stuff in the lower register, and stuff kind of in the middle, and it just sounds really big at the end if you take your time doing this sort of stuff. Bunch of effects, nothing too crazy going on there, and then just this bass underneath, which is a Juno bass, I believe. So that's kind of the build, and then obviously there's a lot of effects to kind of build that tension up into that very, very short build, which we'll go into in a minute. We've also got this element, which is something I added in last minute, which is this Erhu violin. Super booky, super creepy, and that's layered with this glockenspiel thing and that pizzicato string. And these were from the reason that some of these are audio is because they were added in the vocal mixing project, which I'll dive into in another video, because I'm going to do a whole video on how I made the vocals for this. So yeah, they're just little things that I added while I was mixing the vocals, bounced them out, chucked them into this project. But vocals, I'll very quickly run through them. I won't run through any of the processing because, like I said, we'll do that in a different video. So you just got a lead. Hand out, she holds. Came too close. And backing vocals. Came too close. Which is 2 doubles, 2 falsetto layers. The 2 falsetto layers are Sam, and 2 lower octave layers, which are me as well. Which are panned, some of them hard left, hard right, some of them kind of in the middle, and then the lead vocal is just dead center, so you can just hear that. We've got some harmonies, which sound terrible, and then just some effects, mainly just delay and reverb throws, just to keep it interesting. So in the build, I was originally going to have like a standard kind of double this length build, but I just felt like it doesn't need it. It just doesn't. It's built so much in the verse. Like the verse just does this. Like it's just a big crescendo and then it drops out. It just needs that little breather before the drop, I thought. And that was a cool little thing, I thought, that is not super common in dance music. So I was like, let's just do it. Just introducing those drop chords there with this sound. Reverse sound there. The vocals just repeating here. What else we got? We've got a bunch of effects. I've actually got this sound which is it's like an old telephone ringing, which I sampled, and I basically just put it in a sampler and pitched it up, as you can see here. Just gives this really strange riser. And then it's super wet, everything's got a lot of reverb to it, and then the air's sucked out of the room and we're into this tiny little gap before the drop, which lets the vocal breathe. No reverb on anything there. There's this little sound here, also a reverse of the synth that I'm about to run through, and then there is this little sound. This is one of the first sounds that was in the track for some reason. It's just like an acid kind of lead that I found, and I just processed it super weirdly. I think it's a preset in the ES2, is it? Maybe not. It's pretty simple. It's just got a lot of resonance on the filter, which gives it that acid sound, and then just a bit of processing, and then it just cuts out in the volume as soon as the drop hits, so you get that again, that like air sucking vacuum effect, whatever you want to call it. And then, well, it's time to move on to the drop, kids. The drop, I thought for ages, like, how do I get this drop to fit with what I've just done. And I was like, let's just go completely the other way. Let's go super hard, super punchy. And I thought it really reminded me of Caught in the Rays, the entire vibe, like the chords and stuff. And I was like, maybe a drop like this could work. Because Caught in the Rays is, if you guys have heard it, it's a very short track. And I was like, I feel like that should definitely have been a longer track, because it was such a last minute thing that was supposed to go on my EP. So this is a little bit of an ode to Caught in the Rays, so it gets its full respect time, whatever that means. Standard stuff in the drums. You've got a kick, and you've got your like snare and your clap, and this is just stuff that I use all the time. I know these samples work, so I don't really have to change them, and I can just chuck them in really quickly, and they just fit with my sort of style instantly. There was a few things that I did to the kick drum on this one though. I think because there is so much going on in the drop that the kick was getting lost a little bit. So the first thing I did was I just EQ'd out this little bell here, which was kind of annoying, this kind of 7K bit, and then that allowed me to kind of give room to boost the transient on the transient master, which is just the attack of the kick drum a little bit. And even then, like, the attack was coming through in the mix, but the bottom end was just feeling a bit flat. And I'd tried like turning the kick up, and it was just sounding really not right. So what I did is I just did a little bit of parallel compression here. And this, you can say this is not compression, but it technically is. It's just a camel crusher, which is on the British clean function, so there's no distortion really going on. But I've seen producers do this before. I can't remember who exactly showed me this trick, but camel crusher, parallel, bang. It really makes your drums smack, but I only kind of recommend doing it when you need to do it. But it definitely gave the kick a lot more weight in this project. And then moving on to this main sound. So this sound is made in Spire, and I don't actually have the Spire plugin. So I only have the demo because I very, very rarely use the plugin. But I know this sound that I used before in other projects is just super sick. So what I do is I bounce it out so that I don't get the noise function. So this is bounced out, exported to audio. It's just a little bit easier to work with. So we've got this bass layer. All that is a saw wave being filtered, but because it's in Spire, it's just slightly EQ'd in a certain way, and I think there might be a little bit of distortion on it, which makes it sound like that, which is what I love about it. And then before I bounce that, I would have just done a bit of reverb automation as well, which is what those kind of tails are. Nothing crazy going on in the processing. I'm just getting rid of the bass because the sub is covering that. And then there's just a duplicate of this sound on top, just playing the harmony, which I also did a different envelope on this one. Together they sound like this. Just automating the cutoff and stuff there as well. So that's kind of the main sound. I know I wish I could have shown you all of the processing behind this, but I just bounced it out for ease. There's also this Serum Effects on the bus. Is it being used? I don't know. I have no idea. Serum Effects. Okay, it's being used here. There's nothing going on anyway, so ignore that. Yeah, the flanger is also being automated, which you can hear there. So that's the main kind of sound, and that's where it started with the drums and that. And then I would have come in straight away and added sub bass. So this looks like a lot of subs, and it is, but it's exactly the same sub, just with different kind of envelopes on it for different moments in the track. So instead of just using one sub for the entire thing, when there's actually a lot of different kind of filter automations and stuff on the track, it's really easy to just separate your sub so that everything sounds like one, if that makes sense. So if I just play it, you'll be able to hear it. See, this one is shorter here, and this one here has just gotten a LFO sort of tremolo on it, and that's like, you might say, like, why did you not just automate that? It's just much easier and much more tactile to just, you know, have it on its own channel, because automation can sometimes be a little bit temperamental. So yeah, you kind of get the gist. It's just a simple sub. I use this a lot. It's really good. So these guys layered together sound like this. Once that was sounding good, what I wanted to do was add in that mid-range, that kind of low sort of punch that the track was missing. So these are kind of all of the little mid-bass parts. Got these bass samples here. These are just samples from Vengeance or anywhere, like Splice or something, which already sound really great, and I'm just adding some effects to them. Mainly just to separate them from each other, not really to give them any other sort of sound. I mean, the effect rack is what's doing the work here. So there's a filter on it, and this is just acting exactly the same way that the filter was in Spire. So it's just replicating what that's doing so that they don't sound like two separate instruments. This is just adding in those extra harmonics. Cool little bass sound there. Again, just using that reverb automation to fill up those empty gaps, because there's not many notes going on rhythmically here. So that's the bass, and all of the bass together is kind of sounding like this. And then with that main synth. And then to kind of fill out that super airy high end, just got this sound from Serum, which I use sometimes. This one's just a square wave, so it's not interfering with the saw thing that's going on. And then we've got the actual synths somewhere, if I can find them, from Caught in the Rays. I just went back into the project and bounced them out. It's mainly just to get that high end. And then you just got a couple of kind of filling sounds. There's like a pluck in here, I believe. Yep. So yeah, it's all, once I kind of got all this down, it was really about filling these gaps, because there's so many gaps in the song that the energy was just kind of dropping heavily, but I really didn't want to kind of go in and change the melody and stuff. So to make those stabs sound even bigger, I just added some white noise as well, and then a lot of effects. So this is the kind of first batch of effects in the drop. A lot of them almost replicating exactly what the melody is doing and the rhythm of that. But a lot of them also just filling these gaps and these holes. And then you got some drums up here which are basically doing the same thing, but they're just percussion. And then second half of the drop, just got some claps on the beat and a shaker and some hi-hats and a ride. Nothing too crazy rhythmically. One thing I almost missed out is this choir sound. Sorry, that's not the choir sound. Let me find the choir sound. Is it this? Another gap filler, really. But I just really love the sound of this. I think it sounds really quirky. I mean, what's going on here? It's just a choir like sample from Splice or somewhere. It's being bit crushed to kind of get that noise out. I think I've spoken about this before. Effect rack, which is acting as a phaser, which you get that kind of sound from. Side chain, bit of EQ, bit of reverb automation to get that tail up at the end, and then you have that. So all of the synths and stuff together, and all of the bass and all of the effects are going to sound something like this. And then that just gives the kick and the snare a lot of room to just punch through once all of those gaps are filled. So that's the drop, really. As I keep saying, it's nothing too crazy rhythmically or melodically. It's all about the sound design and the filling of these little gaps. So moving on to verse 2, it's very simple. It's pretty much just a drop, just filtered down in a lot of the elements. Some of the elements are turned down a little bit, like the drums. I've just duplicated them down here and just dropped them down a couple of dB because they're a little bit too loud. The bass has just got a few of the bass elements in there, not a lot of them. This was really a lot of trial and error, this verse 2, and figuring out what was best for the vocal to come through, but also just to keep the energy really going. So we've also got this, the electric guitar comes back in at some point. One of my favourite bits is this, in the pre-chorus or the chorus, whatever you want to call it. The guitars come back in verse 2, and it sounds super sick with the bass and stuff. Got some chords here, just replicating the rhythm as well. It's just that lovely little mix between electronic and organic kind of live sounds. I think they both work like really, really well together. Even if you can't hear the guitars are in the mix, it just gives that organic feeling that you just would not get from a lot of synths. Got a little riser. Used this in my track Feel That Way. And then we go into one of my favourite bits in the song, which is this little drop out here. It's just a complete vibe switch. So here, that the energy just drops dramatically, and it goes into these kind of sustained chords. It's the first time the chords change in the song as well, really. Very emotional kind of chords. But what's really carrying this is the vocal pads down here. So what I did here is I'd kind of figured out what the chords were and like each of the notes, and I was sat here with this mic just individually singing in each note of the chord twice, so you have one left and one right, and then you get this huge pad sound. Bit of reverb, bit of compression, and then you got that. And that once it's layered with the other elements in the mix, it's super nice. Bit of a, here's your EDM build here. This is what we missed out on in the first half of the tune. So it comes back in here. Got the drop again. Just missing that first beat for a little bit of variation. That's the word I'm looking for. And then same drop again, and then we go into the outro, which is very similar to that breakdown that I just showed you. Apart from the vocal almost follows the pads this time, and also this live bass sound is introduced. So I played this when I was back home. I wasn't in London, and I didn't have any of these basses, so I was using my dad's like really old bass, and it has this hum to it. I don't know if you can hear it. I might have got rid of a lot of it. Yeah, this is me trying to get rid of the hum. How did I get rid of that in the end? Let me have a look. Anyway, there was this mad hum on it, and I don't know how I managed to get rid of that. But yeah, it just adds that really nice live element to the end of the track where it feels like it's slowing down a bit. And then once the bass slides up at the end, just slides up the octave and you get these cymbals coming in. It just makes it sound like a band has kind of just finished the tune, and you got that nice little bit of silence before the audience gives you a round of applause. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it gives that really, it's just a nice little vibe switch again. Jump in between the organic live sound and the heavy kind of EDM sound. Yeah, that's pretty much the track. I hope you guys have learned something from this. As always, just drop me a suggestion in the comments if you have any suggestions. Thank you again for all the massive love and support you guys are giving. And I hope you guys are having fun playing Rocket League. See you next time.